You ain't real if you ain't in the field. I'd like to start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Machakudash. Welcome to another live lesson. As you heard the name, you ain't real if you ain't in the field. Pretty much this title came, I was speaking to Elder Pastor uh, some weeks back, probably about 3 weeks back or so. And we were talking about it. We were, talking on some stuff, and I said, you ain't real if you ain't in the field. He started cracking up, and he said I should do a lesson on it, which I never got around to it. But now is what better time than now, right? In the present, because pretty much this is where it's at. It's about being out on the streets, teaching His word, bringing out the word, and pretty much giving these devils hell with the words of Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai. And if you ain't doing that, then you ain't real. This is Isaiah 62 and 6. It says, I have set watchmen upon thy walls. So what is the job of a watchman? The job of a watchman is to be on a tower and look. The word there is shamar, which means to watch. To keep guard, observe, give heed. Now you have those that are supposed to be, they're supposed to be watchmen, but they're not watching and they're not warning. One key thing that that was set by the Most High Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai to the prophets is to watch. This is Ezekiel chapter 3 verse 17. Son of man, I have made thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore hear the word at my mouth and give them warning from me. So how are you going to give the people warning from the Lord if you're not out on the streets? So if you ain't on the streets, you ain't real. You ain't real if you ain't in the field. And that's as real as it gets. Because that's the main thing, to give them warning from the Lord of things that are coming. And now that we're in the year 2024, the hopeful year of Jacob's trouble, all the things that the Spirit has had us say all these years ago are really taking hold on the planet right now. And guess what? All of those different individuals that mocked us, that laughed at us, that said what they said, their voice is very small now. Why? Because everything that the Lord has had to say for all these years is really coming to pass on a heavier scale now. The word there is sahar, for warning. It says to admonish, warn, teach, shine, send out light, be shining. But what happens with these jakes is you give them warning from the Lord, and what happens is they hate it. They don't like it. It's uncomfortable to them. They wish you would just shut up. They wish you would not speak on it. They wish that you would let's get the book. It's either Isaiah 30 or 31. Yeah, because as you brothers know, the brothers from Isaiah chapter 30, the brothers from Atlanta were here, and basically you know how that goes when brothers come from out of town. You don't get pretty much any rest. So yesterday I was through. So Salaki, I didn't get a chance to. I wanted to do a little something last night, but I was just little too hit. So I wasn't able to get any lessons in, But I was watching a lot of videos. I was reading a little bit of the book that I was telling you brothers about, and there was another highlight in there, another piece of nugget that I ran across. And Lord's willing, maybe in this lesson, if the Spirit allows, I'll bring it out. I'm just trying to find this one precept. I know it's in Isaiah, Cause the Holy One of Israel to cease from before us. Is that the 30th chapter? Yep, that's it. Isaiah chapter 30, verse 8. Now go, write it before them in the table. So how can you do anything if you're hiding in the comfort of your home? If you're in your backyard, by a gate, like years ago, we used to battle with this guy called Prophet 613, which we used to call False Prophet 666. And we used to get on him so much about going out to the streets that he finally went out in his backyard. He said, well, when you go to the word, it says a gate. So he went by a fence in his backyard. It was a joke anyway. He was a wise fool, a sophomore. So it says that this is a rebellious people, lying children that will not hear the law of the Lord. Why? Because the main thing that we're doing out here is telling Jake that they're going off. And they don't like it. Not by a long shot. But we're not to give a damn if they're hurt by it or not. You better better off getting your feelings hurt by a man of the Lord than to have the Most High put the real screws on you and really put a hurting on your ass. Like that one individual that just dropped dead, because he was taking the word lightly. And that should be a sign to you guys out there, you napkin brothers out there that are playing around with this word. You should take very good heed to that and consider it, that you could be next if you keep playing with the words of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. And it applies to who it applies to, so whoever it applies to, you know who you are. Isaiah 58:1, cry aloud, spare not. So we're to cry aloud. And how do we do this? Out in the streets. Spare not, because we're not to spare anybody's feelings. We don't give a damn what they say or how they feel about it. Because like the Lord said, don't be afraid of their faces. Because why? Because they're gonna make their faces hard against our faces. Why? Because they hate this word, which we're gonna get to that. It says, lift up thy voice like a trumpet and show my people their transgressions in the house of Israel, in the house of Jacob, their sins. And how are we gonna be able to do this? By going out in the streets. You ain't real if you ain't in the field. So it goes on to say in Isaiah 30:10, which say to the seers, which are the prophets, see not, because the prophets in the ancient times used to be called seers. I believe that's in the book of 1 Samuel, the 9th chapter, if I'm not mistaken. See not, and to the prophets prophesy not unto us right things. So they don't want to hear the right things. This is why it's a waste of time trying to debate or talk to any of these people out here. The scriptures say a man that is a heretic after the first and second admonition reject. Why? Because that such is subverted of his own self, because even their mind and conscience is defiled. It says, speak unto us smooth things. See, Jake is in the mindset of they just want smooth things. They want the easy road. They don't want to know of hard things that are coming. They don't want to hear about Judgment Day and the destruction that's coming. I remember years ago in the mid-90s, this one woman had gave me a ride, and we were talking, and all of a sudden I started talking about the end of the world. She said, no, don't talk about the end of the world. I don't want to hear about that. Don't talk about the end of the world. And I was like, oh shit, these people really are afraid to talk about these things. But this is what the prophets do. And this is why the prophets were getting killed. Because they weren't given, that sweet, moist message. They were given a message of hope in the Lord, but also of impending danger that was coming before it came. And guess what? When it came, most of those Israelites that they were speaking to got caught up in that fray because they didn't take heed. So it says, speak unto us smooth things, prophesy deceits. And that's what Jake likes to hear. So that's why they'll go to a group that caters to their lifestyle. It says, get you out of the way. What is the way? This truth. Get you into the old path, right? Turn aside out of the path. What path? The path of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. the path of righteousness. That's why it says that they have a form of godliness, but they deny the power thereof. You know, they go about to establish their own righteousness. Cause the Holy One of Israel to cease from before us. And how is that? I don't want to hear what that Bible has to say. No. And whenever you bring out scriptures that cut them, they get uncomfortable. They get very uncomfortable. They get very, very aggressive. St. John chapter 3. And we're going to go straight to the point. Verse 19. And this is, matter of fact, I'm going to start at 18. He that believeth on him, on who? On the Son, Yahushua. That's talking about you Israelites. Is not condemned. But he that believeth not is condemned already, because he have not believed in the name. The names are not important. We don't know the names, but because he has not believed in what? In the name of the only begotten Son of the Most High, which is who? Yahushua, which is what? He's the light. Right? And this is the condemnation. So here is where the condemnation comes. You know, the Lord said that at ignorance he winked at one time, right? So if you're ignorant of something, obviously, you know, you're going to be dealt with, but not as severe as you would if you already knew. Like the scriptures say, he that knew shall be beaten with more stripes, right? So it says, and this is the condemnation, that light, Yahushua, is coming to the world of Israel, and men love darkness rather than light, right? Because they don't want to hear and see the things that are true. And that's why when you speak about certain things, they get nervous, because this word doesn't do anything for them. It's not a savor of life unto life. It's a savor of death unto death, because their deeds were evil. And that's the whole point. For everyone that doeth evil hateth the light, neither cometh to the light, lest his deeds should be reproved. Because this is one thing Jake has a problem with, reproof. They have a problem with correction. They have a problem with instruction, because they are hard-headed, stiff-necked people. It says, but he that doeth truth cometh to the light, right? Because if you practice in it, you're going to be a partaker in it. That his deeds may be made manifest, that they are wrought in the Most High, right? Because at the end of the day, whatever it is that we're doing wrong, and the Lord manifests to us what it is, then we are to change that. But Jake don't want to change. Jake, you know, is like that old lion that's just comfortable, you know, lying around and not doing anything. So going back to, let's go back here. To keep guard, observe, give heed, and that's the word shamar, which is to watch, which are the watchmen. To keep guard, keep watch, and ward, and ward, watch and ward. A ward is what? Like a prison. A warden is the watcher over the prison, the main watcher over the prison. All right? Protect, save life. Right, because that's what the watchman did. And this message that's being given is to save your life. This is the save your life message. So going back, let's read that again in Isaiah 62 and 6. I have set watchmen upon thy walls, O Jerusalem, because this message is only to the Israelites, which shall never hold their peace day nor night. Why? Because the Spirit of the Lord, you know, compels them to speak, compels them to say what they say, compels them to give the message of the Lord. That's why the Lord told Ezekiel, don't be disobedient like this rebellious people. Take these words, eat the roll, and go out there and speak to the house of Israel, and let them know whether they hear or whether they forbear. Because it doesn't matter if they believe or not, because you're not going to stop the program of the Most High just because you don't believe that it's coming. Disbelief is not protection from what's coming, because it's still going to come whether you believe it or not. That's why the Lord said, just give them warning from me. Don't worry if they hear it or not, because they're a rebellious house. Look, they don't listen to me, they ain't going to listen to you. But needless to say, still take your ass out there and tell them what the hell's going on. At least I deal with your ass, then I go deal with them. You know, if you don't go and warn them, I'm gonna deal with you first, but I'm gonna still get them, and I'm gonna get somebody to, you know, to give the message to them, you know, somebody that's gonna be faithful and teach them the message and tell them what's coming. It says, ye that make mention of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, keep not silence. You ain't real if you ain't in the field. And give him no rest, because we're supposed to be teaching this word until this hoe falls, until the hoe drops. All right? And I ain't talking about dropping it like it's hot. You know, I ain't talking about these hoes, these nasty ass skanks out here, you know, twerking. That's their whole education. You know, if they see a camera, the first thing they start doing is twerking. They know nothing else. My people are wise to do evil, but to do good they have no knowledge. And give him no rest, and also go out here and keep teaching, you know, and keep reminding the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Not that he needs reminding, but this is part of our prayers and supplications, to remind the Lord, when you going to bring these devils down? When you going to bring salvation to us? Till he, who? Yahweh, establish, until he make Jerusalem a praise in the earth. And we don't see that. And these devils that are in that land today, they are not the people, because the earth is not praising no Jerusalem. They're not extolling. If they were really the people of the Lord, and we in the end times, you know, the earth, you know, would start looking at them differently. Like, oh, I don't know, man. Maybe there's something to these people here. Because we, on the other hand, we're not really praised like that. But the consensus of the world is that they're paying attention, very close attention, to what we're saying, because they see that what we have been saying for years is finally coming to pass. There's fruit coming. There's actual good fruit coming off of the trees that were planted way back then. Okay? So, and give him no rest till he establish, until he make Jerusalem a praise in the earth. Now, I want to touch on one precept that came to mind thinking about this lesson. Is in the book of Matthew, which we're going to get that, but another one came to mind. This is like a common one. Let's go to Proverbs. The one in Matthew is a parable. Proverbs 1, first chapter. And 20. It says, wisdom crieth without. You ain't real if you ain't in the field. She uttereth her voice in the streets. You ain't real if you ain't in the field. Wisdom crieth without. She uttereth her voice in the streets. Let's look up the word streets. Maybe it means, you know, your basement. Now we do lessons, you know, indoors. The word there is rachab. Rachab means broad or open place or plaza. You know, some brothers actually preach on Broadway. Back in the days, Salaki for a minute. Salaki. Back in the days, the elders, the high priests and all them back then, used to preach the word out on a street actually called Broadway. You know, as you can see here. You know, they used to preach out on 44th, which they call the island. You know, this would be considered like the island. But there was another spot. I don't believe this is it right here, or unless this might be it. I don't think this is it, but it could be it. You know, there's actually Broadway. Let me see something. Just bear with me 1 second. 44th. Let's see if it comes up. Well, this right here, let me see, I don't know if it's gonna open up big enough for you to see it. Damn, we got some old pictures here from back in the days. I'm trying to see if I can find the island where the elders used to speak at. And that was, man, that was right there. That was something. And remember years ago when High Priest Ariel used to teach right on that island. When he would speak, his voice would seem like it would shake the buildings out there, you know. And that's what you're supposed to be. And you leaders out there, leaders in Israel from the former One West, you have no excuse. You have no excuse. I think this might just be it. You have no excuse because you were not given that example from the elders in the past. The elders in the past, even to their old age, they were out there. High Priest Yaquab, would be out there. See, 44th and Broadway. High Priest Yaquab would be out there teaching on the streets. Even till he got to an old man, Elder Albert Bivens. He actually died being out there on the streets. He actually, got beat down by the Muslims out there in Jersey, being out on the streets. So you didn't get that. You guys that retired from going out on the streets teaching, you didn't get that example from the elders in the past. And you ain't real if you ain't in the field. Only time you go out is when there's some great extravagant, thing happening, so you could shine. This ain't about you. This ain't about us. This is about Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. And that's what the Lord spoke about, those that serve their own belly. Anyway, let's move on. So it says, that's the streets, the broad ways. So it says, wisdom uttereth her voice out in the streets. Not in the comfort of your home, not in the school that you have, sitting there, the temperature's just right. If it's hot outside, you got AC. If it's cold outside, you got heat. Everything at your disposal. You're sitting down comfortable. You're not dealing with the elements. You're not dealing with the rocking back and forth because your back or your knees are hurting from being out on the streets. So it says, she crieth in the chief place of concourse. Let's see what the chief place of concourse is. Chief place of concourse, Ra'ash, which is the head. Head, top, summit, upper part. And this would be equivalent to in the New Testament where it speaks about the marketplace. All right, let me bring this over here. It speaks about the marketplace. I believe that's Acts, the 17th chapter. Acts 17 and... Yep. Acts 17:16. Now while Paul waited for them at Athens, his spirit was stirred in him when he saw the city wholly given to idolatry. Yeah, because these jakes was like, they were totally engulfed. That's why they were totally engulfed in that goddamn Hellenism. And that's why in this book that I was telling you about, Antiquity in the New Testament, I read a part in here that these devils that put this book together, they're studied, all right? And they understand the difference between society today and society back then. Now here, right, on page 63, it speaks about the Pharisees because it went into the different groups. Now, when it speaks about the Pharisees, right, it gives you a history of them, and how they went back to the Maccabees and so on and so forth, right? But it comes down to the last paragraph. It says, but 100 years later, the Pharisees, just bear with me because it's a little dark over here. Let's see if I can see it like this. But 100 years later, the Pharisees, separated ones, were widely known. They chastised those who flirted with Hellenism. And now you understand what it means. Matter of fact, let's get that real quick. You heard what that said. They said they despised those that flirted with Hellenism. And when you go to Ephesians 2:11, it says, wherefore remember that you being in past time Gentiles in the flesh, because you Israelites Your parents were flirting with Hellenism, and you were caught up into Hellenism. And from your birth, you were taught and brought up in the ways of the Greeks, who are called uncircumcision by that which is called the circumcision in the flesh made by hands, because the Pharisees and them had a disdain for those Israelite foreigners that were flirting with Hellenism, that were all engulfed in the middle of it. And this is why the Lord gave the Apostle Peter that vision of the sheep knit at the four corners, which represents the four corners of the earth. I mean, the scriptures don't say that, but when when you extrapolate, that Jacob would be scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. And they said there were all manner of four-footed beasts and unclean animals in there. And that was a representation of Israel, because Peter said, I never eaten anything that's common and unclean. And the Lord said, well, the Lord cleansed that called thou not common or unclean. And as you read down further, it tells you that that Peter started to understand the vision that the common and unclean represented the Israelite foreigners that were unclean, but they were being made clean by the word and the message that he was giving them. Right? So who are called uncircumcision by that which is called the circumcision in the flesh made by hands. So that's what we just read, that the Pharisees they despised, any Israelite back then that was flirting with Hellenism. They didn't play that shit. And even though Yahushua wasn't, delving in that, they even looked at him funny, because you even had those Jews that were called apostates because they would do something or be accused of something, and they would run to be among those Hamites and the different nations that were in Samaria, because they had a temple there. They did the sacrifices and everything, but they were still heathens. So you had a bunch of Jakes that ran there to flee out of Jerusalem, because they were being, either they did something wicked or they were accused wrongly. So they went there because they would find refuge among the Samaritans. This is why Yahushua said, go ye not go ye not to any Samaritans. Go ye not to the Gentiles or to any city of the Samaritans. Why? Because you had apostate Jews that were living there. And then you were not on the level to distinguish between who was a Jake and who wasn't. St. John 8:48 at that time. Then answered the Jews and said unto him, say we not well that thou art a Samaritan and hast a devil? So you got to understand, now if somebody call you Samaritan, you're not really going to be offended by that. Because we're in different times now. But this was like a grave insult back then to be called that. Why? Because they had a disdain for anyone that didn't follow in the ways, of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Even though they were going off, but they were trying to keep that strict regimen of keeping the law. And anyone that didn't do that, which they should have despised themselves, because a lot of them were hypocrites, but anyone that didn't follow or adhere to the laws, they would look down upon them. All right? So remember, it said that they had a disdain for those that flirted with Hellenism. So going back, where were we? Proverbs. Okay, so yeah. So I didn't get to the point in Acts 17. Therefore disputed he, meaning the Apostle Paul, in the synagogue with the Jews and with the devout persons, and in the market daily with them that met with him. Now when you look up this word market or marketplace in the New Testament, it's equivalent to Rechab, when it speaks about the chief place of concourse. You got the word market, agora, all right? Let me see what this is right here. All right? And what is the agora? Any assembly, especially of the people. The place of assembly for public debating, for elections, for trials, for buying and selling, for all kinds of business. Marketplace street. And you see here, this was a one time, this is a major hub. Salakia, brothers. I know that's nasty, but please forgive me, because just shit's still coming up out of me. So All right, so this is the marketplace, and this is where you're supposed to be, teaching the word. You ain't real if you ain't in the field. Now, don't get it twisted. Every city in America doesn't look like this. You have some places where it's a little more mellow, a little more calm. You have places where businesses are closed down, but that's still considered the marketplace. That's still considered, the chief concourse or the Broadways or whatever city you're in. Because every city is not like New York. Even though you have some cities out there that are just as busy, or mimic this, but every city in America is not like this. So you just go to the chief places of concourse, wherever, the chief place of concourse may be. So going back, so that's it on that. So now let's go back to Proverbs chapter 20, and let's read that again. She crieth in the chief place of concourse, in the openings of the gates, in the city she uttereth her words, saying. See, and what is she saying? How long, ye simple ones, will you love simplicity? And this is the main message. We out there teaching the prophecies, because that's the main message, and then cursing Jake out for not getting, right with Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. And we're telling them and letting them know these things before it happens, so when it does happen, they have no excuse. They ain't gonna have any excuse. And the scorners delight in their scorning. You're right. You see that. You see the scoffers, but the scoffers' voices are very, very minimal now. Even though they're starting to get a little emboldened, but now it's like they get a little spell where they start coming out the woodworks, and then all of a sudden they fall back to sleep. Like when we were doing the New Year's Eve of Destruction here, one of the brothers, I'm not sure who it was. I'm not sure if it was the Elder Ayash. One of them said, or maybe it was Elder Ash. One of them, they said, they said, man, you got a lot of scoffers on here. But I didn't know, because he was monitoring the live, so I really didn't see the comments. But their voices get high, then they get low, then they get quiet. And the more that these prophecies start popping, the less you hear these scoffers. Because it's going to come a point to where the Lord is going to establish and make known his message, his true message to the planet. All right, and it says what? And fools hate knowledge. Turn you at my reproof. Right. In other words, take heed to the message and turn from your evil ways. Correct what you're doing. Behold, I will pour out my spirit unto you, and will make known my words unto you. Right. So if you understand the message and turn around and repent, that's the Lord having and bestowing mercy on you. It says, because I have called and you refused, but because I sent my prophets out there to warn you, you didn't listen. I have stretched out my hand and no man regarded. Right, so he's giving you the lifeline of what you need. This is the refreshing where you may cause the weary to rest, but yet they would not. Let me see. I think that might be the 28th chapter of Isaiah. Right. Isaiah 28:12. To whom he said, this is the rest wherewith you may cause the weary to rest. And this is the refreshing, yet they would not hear. See? So disbelief is not, what's the word I used earlier? Disbelief is not protection, for lack of better words, from what's coming. Your unbelief is not going to stop this word from rolling out. The Lord's still going to roll it out, whether you accept it, believe it or not. And that's why the Lord said, just teach. Don't look. He said, look, don't worry about all of that. You do what I tell you to do, and I'll take care of the rest. Because the Lord, he's dealing. 2 Ezra 15:3. Fear not the imagination. Matter of fact, 1. Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy. And we're supposed to be out in the streets, because if you ain't You ain't real if you ain't in the field. Which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord, because the Lord is the one putting this in our mouth. He's the one that's compelling us to do these things. It's not us. He's the one that's giving us the inspiration. He's the one that's directing our thoughts and our minds and directing the words that are coming out of our mouths. And cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true, right? Because eventually they're going to come to pass. Though it tarry, wait for it. Why? Because the words of the Lord are faithful. And they're not going to turn up void. Fear not the imaginations against thee, let not the incredulity of them trouble thee that speak against thee. Right? And what is incredulity? It just means unbelief. Don't let their unbelief trouble you. Don't get all, oh, this might not be the truth because they're not accepting it. No. You're supposed to be already resolved in yourself to know that this is the truth. And what they believe should not affect us or move us. Because the Lord is still going to make it come to pass. And how do we know that? Because look at, from the YouTube era to now, look at how much further the prophecies have gotten, how much they have increased. Going from all the way back in the 90s, going from back in the 80s and the 70s and the 60s, all the way to now, look how much more they have increased. Why? Because this is a witness against the world that what we're saying is the truth. And it's affecting these so-called Christians so much that now they don't have to step their game up. They're going back and wiping the dust off of their Bibles and starting to look up words. This is why now you hear, well, yeah, this goes back to the Greek word. That goes back to the Hebrew. You didn't hear that shit before. The only time you would hear something like that would be if you would go to a commentary, some type of book that scholars put together, and then you will go to the commentary on certain breakdowns, and you will see that they'll reference other precepts to go with that particular sentiment that they brought out, or some Greek word or some Hebrew word. And they even go to other different languages. You never heard the average Christian do that. But now they're going into it deeper because they've been put on the spot, and they've been forced to step their game up because they can't deal with this word. The Lord told the disciples, I will give you a mouth of wisdom that none of your adversaries will be able to gainsay nor resist. So they can't gainsay or resist it. So what they're doing is they're trying to get their arsenal up so that they can deal with the Israelites. But you can't deal with the Israelites because the Lord has a spirit upon the Hebrew Israelites to bring out this message. Because if you were the ones that had the right message, you would have never been in the condition that you're in now. You would have already been teaching the same message that we're teaching. So your message came a day late and $1 short. Because you had the wrong message. You have the message of plantation Christianity. You have the message of white supremacy. How do we know that? Every time you deal with these Christians, the main concern that they have is, well, how come the white man can't be saved? What is that? That's white supremacy. That's been etched in the borders of your consciousness. So like it, it's been seared with a hot iron. That you don't care about yourself. All you care is about massa. So that's how you know that white supremacy is the message that's out there. Because you don't never hear them say, well, what about the Chinese? Well, how come the Africans can't be saved? Or how come the Arabs can't be saved? No, it's always a white man. The Edomites. They can't do without that devil. So that shows you how much these devils have made an impression in your mind with their philosophy, with their doctrine, so much so that you have certain Israelites out there that are very intelligent, and they don't subscribe to the Bible because they feel it's a white man's book, because he has distorted it so much that he's even distorted these individuals away from their own book, to where they have a disdain for their own message, their own book, because of the tainted teachings of Esau. Hey, that's a lesson for you, brother. The tainted teachings of Eve. It says, fear not the imagination against thee, let not the incredulity of them trouble thee that speak against thee. For all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness. So don't worry about it, because unbelief is not protection from what's coming. Your unbelief is not going to stop the Most High from doing what he does. So going to the main precept, matter of fact, Proverbs, back in Proverbs 125 now, but you have set at naught all my counsel, and with none of my reproof, I also will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your fear cometh. And that's why Spirit jumped on Elder Pastor to call 2024, which we're in right now, the hopeful year that all the prophecies come to pass. We're in the second day, and all kind of hot fires going on. People are getting deleted all over the place. Matter of fact, not too far from here, from where we were having the New Year's Eve of destruction, not too long after that, we heard all kind of shots and gun, and it usually Jake shoot, at so-called, at midnight they shoot guns and stuff, but it was like a barrage of bullets, and come to find out the next day, like not too far from here, there was some people got deleted. So it's coming, man. And the Elder Karatazar from the Vegas camp, he put up a video where all type of people all over the place were getting slain. They were getting deleted off the planet. It says, when your fear cometh as desolation, and your destruction cometh as a whirlwind, when distress and anguish cometh upon you, then shall they call upon me. Then shall they call upon me, but I will not answer. They shall seek me early, but they shall not find me. Because the Lord is going to withdraw his presence. He's going to withdraw his words. He's going to withdraw the message. He's going to withdraw his shelter from a lot of you Israelites out there. For that they hated knowledge, right? Because when the knowledge was out there, you didn't think about this. And that's why I wanted to do another lesson. That Jake is just pretty much in a pleasurable state. Anything of pleasure, they want to be involved in. Anything that has anything to do with thinking, they don't want no parts of it. But Esau, on the other hand, he's searching stuff out. He's looking up stuff. He's watching what's going on. He's looking at news, and he's putting things together. Okay, this is coming down the pipe. We see what's happening. Here it is. You got this, F to the steam, list coming out. And the focus of the world is on that bullshit. Right. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, they're passing legislation and doing all type of stuff that's getting these things ready and getting everything prepped for the new world that they're creating. And Esau got their eyes on that stuff. But you, Jakes, you got your eyes on distraction. You got your eyes on entertainment. You got your eyes on pleasure. And what's going to happen is you're going to get caught up in the fray. It says, and did not choose the fear of the Lord, Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. They were none of my counsel. They despised all my reproof. Therefore shall they eat of the fruit of their own way and be filled with their own devices. For the turning away of the simple shall slay them. Right. So what is the turning away of the simple? You denying, and not wanting to deal with or hear the message that the Lord has put in his men to give you. And that's going to slay you. And the prosperity of fools shall destroy them, right? Because you're all about prosperity. And then you have these swallowed preachers out there teaching you totally against the Most High. And when one of them devils drops, guess what? They got another one in the cut, like Honest Abe Honeycutt. He's waiting in the wings. And they're grooming him. Okay, this is going to be the next new folly religious leader. They got all that in place. But whoso hearkeneth unto me shall dwell safely and shall be quiet from fear of evil. So you ain't real if you ain't in the field. Now this is a parable of the marriage feast. And it's funny that as I was reading through this book, right, I've been saying this for years, that when Yahushua taught his parables and just taught in general, he used everyday basic things that you could understand. And they pretty much kind of flirted with the idea of that, because when they said, because they were going into like some of the places where Yahushua taught and things that he would say, and how it reflected a lot of the stuff that was going on back then. Like cities being on a hill, there were certain places out there that they actually had cities on a hill that they couldn't be hit. You know, you had trees and you had leaves and you had, you know, forests and different things of that nature, which he would use roots and all of that to pretty much give the message of the gospel when he was speaking these parables. So this happened to be a parable of being bidden to this marriage supper of the Lamb and having, you know, servants out there, and some servants were wise and some servants were evil and wicked. It says, Matthew 22:1, and Yahushua answered and spake unto them again by parables and said, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a certain king which made a marriage for a son. The king is the Most High Yahweh, the son is Yahushua, and sent forth his servants to call them that were bidden to the wedding. Right, and that's the job of the prophets, to go out there and to teach. The word servant there is doulos. Doulos is a slave, bondman, a man of servile condition. Metaphorically, one who gives himself up to another's will, those whose service is used by Yahushua in extending and advancing his cause among men. Now, what's beautiful about that is pretty much these are men that are resolved in their spirit not to do their own will, to do the will of the Father to the best of their ability. And they would fall under this category here, Romans 12:1. I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of the Most High, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, wholly acceptable unto the Most High, which is your reasonable service. Right, and that's the point. And how do you present your bodies as a living sacrifice? Well, you're going out there in the streets teaching. And I'm going to tell you, man, you know, the teaching and the things that we do are very beneficial to us, but it also it breaks our bodies down, you know, because you got to remember, we are imperfect creatures having this, you know, the spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua through the Holy Spirit resting upon us and teaching. That breaks you down after a while, you know, worries and, you know, and just ailments and just different things that mess with you. Over time, the body just breaks down. You know, that's why we, even though we're getting stronger in the spirit every day, our outward bodies are broken down. And I run into individuals I went to high school with, and they pretty much look the same, with maybe, you know, a couple of grays here and maybe a little older, but not even, they still almost look the same 30 plus years later. And I was like, damn, man, you look old as hell. I said, well, let's, you know, I didn't tell them this, but let's see you deal with what the Lord had me deal with, and let's see, you know, how you fare. You know? So it says, and send forth the servants to call them that were bidden to the wedding. What's that? The servants or the prophets being out on the streets. You ain't real if you ain't in the field. And they would not come, right, because they wouldn't listen. Again he sent forth other servants, saying, tell them which are bidden, behold, I have prepared my dinner. And this thing is prepared. You got hot plates of wisdom, you know, being served out there. I mean, the best food on the planet. And Jacob, they don't want that. They want the hog moths and chitlins of Esau. They want the white supremacy, you know, special. The bland, you know, BS. My oxen and my fatlings are killed, and all things are ready. Come unto the marriage. So everything is ready. All you have to do is come and eat. That's why Yahushua said, if you love me, feed my sheep, feed my lambs. Because that's the true love. That's how you know if you love Yahweh Bashem Yahushua or not. Your whole concern is about feeding the sheep and feeding the lambs. But they made light of it. Right, they didn't take it serious. Just like the individual that just got deleted, he made light of this. And guess what? The Lord took him off the planet. Now he's good. Now he knows. Now he's taking it serious. The word there is amelejo, which means to be careless of, to neglect. Don't be a napkin brother. Right here it says, no regard. When you make light of something, means that you don't take it serious. So when the time comes for you to take it serious, and you didn't, and you decide all of a sudden you want to take it serious, guess what? It's going to be too late. Let's go back. It says, but they made light of it and went their ways. Right, they went about their business. And back in Romans, right, 12:2, and be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. And your mind can only be renewed if you have the right message. You know, this is why the Ethiopian eunuch, he had that zeal, but he didn't really understand what he was reading. That's why Philip, came up on him and said, do you understand what you're reading? He said, how can I? I said, so man, pretty much break it down for me. But you're being instructed, you're given the right instructions, but you're pushing the instructions away because you think you know better than the Lord. Transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of the Most High. Why? Because you're given the right instructions. So now you have direction. Now you have the ability to teach. Now you have the ability to discern between good and evil, which Jake don't have. So back in Matthew 22:5, but they made light of it and went their ways, one to his farm, another to his merchandise. Right, they're going about their business. That's why Yahushua once again said, as in the days of Noah, they were eating and drinking, giving in marriage until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and they knew it not. And then the flood came and busted their ass down. Then they was like, okay, no, we accept it now. We see it. We see the light. We see the light. What's the Lord's name? We see the light. Come on. Help us out. Too late. And the remnant took his servants and entreated them spitefully and slew them. Yeah, because they killed a lot of the prophets because of the message they were bringing, because they looked at it as who the hell is this guy? They didn't look at it as it being a spiritual man, that was giving them a spiritual warning from the Lord. They looked at it as just being man, like they do now. And that's why when brothers say something over and over again, brothers may be like, oh boy, here we go again, But this is the Lord giving this admonition before shit happens. Because when it happens, when it start happening, there ain't no turning back. You either on the right side or you on the left side. But when the king heard thereof, the Most High Yahweh heard, he was wroth, he was angry. It says, and he sent forth his armies, which are who? The angels, and destroyed those murderers and burnt up their city. Right? Because the Lord is the angels are out there deleting dudes, deleting people. Then saith he to his servants, the wedding is ready, but they which were bidden were not worthy. So basically, fuck them. Go ye therefore into what? Into the highways, and as many as you shall find bid to the marriage. Let's look up this word highways. You ain't real if you ain't in the field, man. The word there is the Exodus. Ooh, the Exodus. Excuse me. So it says a way out through, outlet, exit. Literally the ways through which ways go out. The places before the city where the roads from the country terminate, therefore outlets of the country, highways, whose entrance into this, also entrances into the city. See? Entrances into the city. Because the main place of teaching is the streets, the grand concourse, the broadways, the agora, the marketplace. That's where the word is supposed to be going out on. So if you ain't doing that, then you ain't real. You ain't real about this truth. You're deceiving yourself. You're deceiving and being deceived. And he says, and as many as you shall find bid to the marriage. So those servants went out into the highways and gathered together all as many as they found, both bad and good. And that's why the Lord's coming to do the sifting. The sifting is bringing Israel from among the nations, but the sifting is also those that are gathered. The Lord is sifting them also. And the wedding was furnished with guests. All right. It says, and when the king came in to see the guests, he saw there a man which had not on a wedding garment. Right. He didn't have on his garment. And he said unto him, friend, how camest thou in hither not having a wedding garment? And he was speechless. Now that's these guys that gave up, stopped teaching, hung up their garment, went about their life, some 10 years, some 15 years, some 20, some 30 years. Now all of a sudden when they see everything happening, now they want to come into the picture and set everything straight. You should have been doing this shit 30 years ago, 20 years ago. Now you're going to come in at the end. After all the work is done, now you're going to come in all of a sudden and just take over, and then everybody else get to the curb or get behind you. No, it don't work like that. Like the Elder Kazak. Talking about and that's the same thing that Elder Lahab did. He came out of nowhere, with the extravagant, he jumped back in that central demand spirit. All of a sudden, he gonna set everything straight. After they done forsook the flock, but now after the work is done and everything is set in place, now they're gonna just come in and take over. It don't work like that. Then said the king to and they gave up because they were out there teaching on the streets, and they don't do that anymore. High priest Lahab, as his name was back then. High priest Yeshaya, as his name was back then. High priest Kazak, as his name was back then. None of them was out in the streets. None of them are out in the streets teaching. Then said the king to the servants, bind him hand and foot and take him away and cast him into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth, because you're only fooling yourself. You ain't fooling nobody else. You're only fooling yourself. For many are called, but few are chosen. That's why it says, give diligence to make your calling and election sure. One thing is for sure. We didn't bring ourselves into this. We know we've been called, but we don't know if we've been chosen. That's why the Lord said, give diligence, or through the mouth of the Apostle Peter, give diligence to make your calling and election sure. So if you ain't in the field, you ain't real. You ain't real if you ain't in the field. So let that be a message. So with that, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. Till the next time I say shalom.